This is Jackie, and I'm here with Lawrence on day 3 of a nice, toasty, warm Bonnaroo. How are you guys staying cool today?
We're staying cool we just played a massive set, so not staying that cool,
you're
actually.
not.
I have no answer for that, because
Okay,
it's not...
so the answer is you're not staying cool, but you'll get there. Hey, you're going to be cooling off for the rest of the day.
I'm going to go take a fat shower in a second.
Very nice. So your recent release, Breakfast, describe the songwriting process on that album.
We're siblings and we both wrote songs for breakfast. So some of the songs we wrote together, some of them we wrote individually and then brought them to each other in our living room because we live together. It's a very long track. And so we're very inspired by old songwriting structure but modern production. So, we look to people like Stevie Wonder, Randy Newman, Carole King. You can name a few others.
There's a lot. Beatles, Brian Wilson, I don't know, but then Justin Timberlake and Beyonce and, a lot of more modern people too. Yeah, it was pretty organic. It's just whatever we were, it was just kind of whatever we were feeling when we were sitting at home.
What are some messages you hope fans take away from the songs on the album?
That's a really good question. We tend to not have much of a message. No, I'm kidding. I think that the message is that, pop music doesn't have to be something that's so polarizing. I think that these days, people really who want to get up on their high horse hate on pop music, and that's kind of understandable because a lot of pop music isn't that great right now. But we're trying to kind of make pop music something that everybody can rally around. We're writing the pop music that we wish was pop music and that harkens back to a time when Stevie Wonder and Paul McCartney and John Lennon, when they were writing pop music, it wasn't such a bad thing.
And it used to stand for popular music, not this
Right.
sort of curse word that it's become. So you mentioned lots of different influences. Is there a particular band or group that you guys always turn to? Maybe, teenage life can get kind of tough. Are there some musicians that you would turn to?
Still is for me. I would say, that's a good question. I think our biggest inspirations have been Stevie Wonder and the Beatles, who we mentioned, in terms of songwriting and the sound that we're going for. I guess personally, as a female singer, I was really affected by Amy Winehouse, Etta James, Aretha Franklin. Those were the kind of people that, when I was learning to sing, I would be these are the people I want to learn to sing not,
Not like Britney Spears. Not that she's a bad person, but we're talking about the pop music.
Although this morning I did do an interview where I was Britney Spears is a goddess and she's the person I want to be. So I'm very conflicted. I do love Britney Spears a lot.
Maybe there's a middle ground between Etta James and Britney Spears.
I think we might be you're looking at the middle ground. But worse
that.
on every account. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So how did you guys go from, posting cover tunes to composing music and scores?
Composing and songwriting has always been something we've done. That wasn't sort of something we needed to consciously start doing. That's sort of my first love in terms of music and in general. I really as long as I can remember, songwriting is really the thing that drew me towards music. It wasn't a desire to perform at on a big stage or the desire to even play music. It was the idea of telling musical stories and listening to people like Randy Newman. That was what I loved doing when I grew up. So it was almost all of the other stuff for me, performing, coming up with cool arrangements of covers, all of that sort of stuff was stuff that came later. That was sort of this is funny things and fun things to do to surround what I care about most, which is just trying to write good songs and play them for people.
But you've been writing good songs for a very long time.
I've been writing songs for a very long time.
Since I read somewhere you worked on the score for Miss Congeniality when you were how old?
Yeah, I wrote the theme song that was for that movie that they all sing on the bus for the fake pageant when I was 4 or 5 years old. And then I've just written a bunch of scores and songs for films since then. And then it was more recently that we were let's do our project.
Miss Congeniality was on late night a few days ago while I was
It's
writing these
always
questions.
on.
So I thought it is.
I'm
It's
very
always
happy
on.
about that. It's good for me.
Excellent. So when did you go from, writing songs that make you happy and wanting to sort of get out those ideas to deciding that you wanted to make it your career?
I think Clyde and I had like a slightly different journey for that. I sort of had the opposite of him, where I like always knew I wanted to be a performer. I always acted, I always sang, and then only later when I realized like, oh, I think I can write songs, did I really do it, whereas he was coming from the opposite direction. We really met in the middle, and now we're both performers and songwriters. Yeah, I mean, I think that it was never a conscious decision of like, are we going to go for it or not? I think we were just like, we grew up in a house that was like supported music and loved music, and it was just like the thing that we did. There was no question about it. Like, like anything else, we would like eat dinner and then we'd like play music. That was like what happens. And only did I realize that that's not what happens when like I'd have a play date and like someone else would come over and we'd all be like singing at the table, and someone would be like, what are you doing? Like, who does this? And I was like, is this not normal? And then I was like, oh crap, like to change my ways.
Kind of like that annoying family in that movie with Will Ferrell where they're all singing in the car in harmony.
Can't think of the name of it, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. That was kind of us. We have a little brother who's a great singer too, and we do 3-bar harmonies with him. So
No pressure for him, right?
No, trust me, he doesn't. He's doing pretty well for himself. He's about as confident as a 12-year-old could be. He's not bogged down by the insecurity. He's very proud of us.
So, Gracie, how did you make the leap from band to Broadway to film?
Ooh, interesting question. I actually, when I was younger, I was on Broadway, and I still audition and still act. I did a few projects in film and television on Broadway, and interspersed with roles, I would be traveling up to college where Clyde was at Brown University, and I'd travel up there and like do gigs with him. So I still feel like it's a bit of a juggling act. Like I never went from like thing to thing to thing. I just kind of did it all at the same time. And I'm still trying to like do everything, but
We're home. She's doing comedy like 4 days a week and killing it. Like, it's really cool. I just sit on the couch while we're home.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing with his life, but yeah, I still try to do a lot of things, and hopefully it will all work out in some way.
Sounds like you guys are part of a very talented, multifaceted family. So what's up next for you guys after Bonnaroo?
Well, we are continuing the tour. We have a little breather right now for a couple days, but then we are picking it up at the end of June, and our first stop's in D.C., and then up through the Midwest, and then out to the West Coast, and just all of July we're going to be doing basically a loop of the entire country. So yeah, I mean, hopefully some people that were here at Bonnaroo from all around the country will go back home and recruit some friends to come see us next month. That's kind of the hope.
Well, I'm in D.C., so I'll come see you for the first show.
We'll be at the Songbird on June 30th. That's the first show of the next leg of the tour.
Excellent. Well, stay tuned for much more from Lawrence. This is Jackie. Thanks to In the Key of Change and Chorus.fm.